Back to the Supreme Court now. The conservative majority has blocked the Biden administration's temporary ban on evictions. Weijia Jiang is here now to break this ruling down for us. Weijia, good morning. Is this a blow for the president at the hands of the high court?
I mean, you may remember that President Biden was not going to try to implement any additional measure to help people who were struggling to pay the rent, because he said, despite trying, despite the CDC looking for a legal path forward, there simply wasn't one. But there was mounting pressure from progressive lawmakers. You might remember Cori Bush, who was literally camped out on the steps of the Capitol because she was urging the administration to act. And, you know, at the end of the day, he said, I'm going to give this a shot, even though he acknowledged it was likely not going to pass constitutional muster. But the one thing that may have done is give some local and state jurisdictions more time to distribute funds that Congress had already approved. But it doesn't seem like they did that much with the time, quite frankly, because just yesterday we heard from the Treasury Department that only about $5.1 billion of the $46 billion already approved by Congress for rental assistance has gone out through the end of July. And so that's precisely what the administration, what President Biden will focus on now, is trying to get that money through, since it's just sitting there.
So, Weijia, how did the administration respond to this ruling?
Well, Jen Psaki, the press secretary, issued a statement. She said that the White House was really disappointed and said once again that as a result of this, really the only recourse, that's my assessment of this, but her words, she did say that the president would continue to call on state and local governments to distribute some of that funding because, again, they already know it's there and they are quite frustrated. They have been now for several weeks, knowing that, you know, there's red tape to cut that they want to see gone, because the critical moment here is for those people who are wondering every day whether they're going to be kicked out of their homes or not.
But this is not the first time this has happened. I mean, the last time that this was overruled by the Supreme Court, the administration basically said, like, our hands are tied, we can't do it anymore. The Supreme Court said we can't. And then, as you mentioned, they did it again. There's still this unspent money. So what more can they do? Can they push Congress to act? Where do they go from here?
Well, they will try to push Congress to act, right? Because that's exactly what the ruling said, that it must be up to those lawmakers to authorize this, not any federal agency that wants to enforce power that it does not have. But the reason why President Biden had to move forward without lawmakers is because they did not have the votes. You may remember this was a little bit of a hot potato. The administration called on House Speaker Nancy Pelosi to do something, to take it to the floor, to have a vote on legislation to extend the moratorium. That caught the speaker a little bit by surprise. And there was this back and forth, very public, almost blame game happening about whose responsibility it was to try to extend the moratorium. And the House Speaker said, look, I would love to be able to do this, but she simply did not have the votes. And that was just about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So it's difficult to imagine that between then and now, more Republicans have changed their minds, unless they're hearing from constituents that they're about to become homeless. And so it is up to Congress, and President Biden will pressure them. But short of that, there's not much the administration can do, at least legally, as we just saw from this ruling.
And do we know when this goes into effect, or how many people approximately it's going to affect?
So it impacts about 3.5 to 4 million people who had said, you know, even 2 months ago, they were at risk for losing their homes. And the last eviction moratorium already ended on July 31st. And so it's done. There is not this federal protection that bans landlords from trying to push people out of their homes. But, you know, that's the other piece of this, right? Because landlords say they have bills to pay too. And so, you know, they are struggling as well without rent money coming in. And that's why, you know, it's just another sign, Christina, of how devastating this pandemic has been financially on the millions of Americans who, again, are now wondering, without this protection, how they are going to pay the bill.
Devastating and with no easy solutions. Weijia, thank you so much.